Hi everyone, I'm Amy Harrington. I'm South Tipperary Arts Centre's Inktober animator for October 2020. I have a great challenge for you. In this video, I will be showing you 3 animation tutorials, like the bouncy ball, a waveform ghost, and a flying bat. If you follow along with one or more and make something really cool, you can be in with a chance to win a Wacom drawing tablet. You can submit your animations via an upload link in the description down below. The closing date for entries is the 31st of October. I hope you enjoy the tutorials. Good luck and happy Halloween! For these animation tutorials, I'll be using an app called Flipaclip. You'll be able to download this from your app store either on Android or any Apple devices. This is a free-to-use app. After you have the app downloaded, you should be brought to a page that may look similar to this or directly to the project setup page. If you're brought to this page, press the big red button with the plus symbol. Then you'll be brought to the project setup page. Here you will have a space to put in the name of your animation. I'm going to call this my full name, an underscore, and then what the project is. So this is part 1, bouncy ball. Then you're going to click into canvas size. For these tutorials, I'll be using YouTube 1080p, but as you can see, there's loads of options of different sizes you can have it. So if you wanted to upload to Instagram or TikTok or anything, you can make it those sizes appropriate for those platforms. We'll be working at 24 frames per second. Frames are just your drawings. So for every second you see, there is 24 drawings in motion on the screen. Here you can decide on what kind of background you want to animate on. They have a lot of options of different textures, colors, and patterns. I'm gonna choose this one. After you have all those options taken care of, click on Create Project, and you'll be met with this canvas interface. At the left-hand side, there's your tools. So like a pen tool, and you have a different variety of them. So here's pencil, here's a brush, here's a pen, and here's a marker. And you can change the size of all these tools by dragging out the little dot next to the tool you have selected. And you can change the color of all these things as well using this color picker tool. So you can just drag the color picker around like this, and there you go, now it's red. Then just re-click on the tool icon, and there is also an eraser. You can click into this as well, and you can change its size and hardness, like this. There is also a lasso tool, so click this and you can draw around whatever you have on the canvas. It will leave these dotted lines behind it, and then you can move the thing you have selected within these bounds. You can change the size of anything you have selected like this, and rotate it like this. There is also a bucket tool, so if you click into this, you can then press anything that is on your canvas and changes color like this. Up to the top right of your canvas, there is an undo button, so you can click that and it will undo whatever you have just done. Next to that, there is the redo button, so you can click on that if you have undone something you actually wanted to keep. This app also has the ability to use text. We won't be using that for this tutorial, but it's still a cool feature to have. It also has the ability to record your own sounds and music, so if you wanted to create something with sound effects, you can do that in this as well. I'm pretty sure you can also bring in your own videos if you want to rotoscope over them or draw onto them and make cool little edits of anything you like. But for today, we're going to start off with a blank canvas and get on to using the pen tool. I'm just going to click into the pen tool and change its color to red. I'm doing this because our first draft will be a rough line, and later on we'll want to line over it with a different color. Along the bottom of your screen, you will see a smaller version of what you've just drawn on the screen. These are your frames. So remember when I said we were working at 24 frames per second? The frames are just your drawings, and you're going to have at least 24 drawings every second you see on screen. So let's begin. I'm going to go into the project settings and I'm going to put on the grid. This is going to be helpful to use as a guide as we draw our bouncy ball. You can use the vertical lines as a template for where the bouncy ball should be going up and down, and using the horizontal lines to keep it in a particular size. So I'm going to make here at the top of the canvas around where I want the ball to begin its descent. And then all you need to do is draw a little circle on frame 1. On frame 2, you will now see a little ghost version of the frame you just drew on frame 1. This is called an onion skin. This is to help just animate in general. It helps you know where you've just come from and helps you to see where you can go next. When drawings are closer together, it slows down their momentum, so it makes it look like it's hanging in the air for a little longer and sells that it's fighting gravity and the motion to move down. On frame 2, you want to try and keep your ball near enough the same size as the first one you drew, and just draw it slightly underneath it, overlapping the onion skin that you can now see. For the rough pass, make sure to work loosely and roughly. Scribbles are fine, we'll clean them up later. This is animating, so for every second you see on the screen, there is 24 drawings behind it, which does add up to a lot of time. So if you're working perfectly and really trying to make your drawings absolutely perfect the first way through, it's going to take a very long time to do. Just worry about making it neat later. Now we're on to our third frame. So now you can hold down where your frames are and just kind of scrub through it to see how it looks so far. So there's the onion skin of the previous frame 2 again. And now we're going to be slightly warping the shape of the ball. So this is called stretch. It's one of the 12 animation principles. We make the ball have this stretched out, morphed look to help sell momentum and movement. In animation, it helps to exaggerate certain movements, so while a bouncy ball may kind of warp to your eye while it is moving, it probably won't warp to this extent. So here's when it's going to start stretching because the velocity of the drop. It's going to like move it out and make it flatter. So it's going from this kind of ball shape to something more like this, but not too extremely yet. And notice still how our first few drawings are still very close to each other in terms of distance on the sheet. But on frame 4, now we're gonna make a difference from that. So as we're beginning to gain more speed, as gravity is pushing the ball down, it's gonna have more of a distance between drawings. And this just makes it seem like it's moving faster. And again, it's just selling that it's actual object moving and falling. And it's going to be stretched out a lot in comparison to its original form. I'm going to get my lasso tool and move frame 3 a little bit more to the center. So you know on the grid how we have this line that we're following vertically. And we're roughly trying to keep it between these two lines as well, just for consistency. I just moved it back along that center line, and you can use the lasso tool as well for your drawings if you think you're going a bit off path. Just use the grid as a guide. Then on frame 5, you're going to decide where you want your ball to actually make impact. So I think I'm going to get mine to hit along this red line. You can get yours to hit off the bottom of the frame if you want, or you can keep it all in shot like I'm doing. So remember, if you're making any kind of mistake you want to get rid of, you can use the eraser tool, or you can use the undo button in the top right hand corner. So again, on the 5th frame, there's going to be the impact, and this is when you make a kind of squash down of the ball. So how we had it stretching before now morphs into being squashed from hitting the solid floor. So what I'm going to do first is more of the original circular shape we had, so it seems like even the ball has to catch up with it being morphed. The impact is so strong. So then you're going to have a very extreme kind of squash on frame 6 because it hit the ground so hard. And this is probably going to squash outside the lines of the grid that you've been following up until now. So you can break that a little bit. So it's going to be that little kind of pancake shape. Now you can scrub through your frames and see how that looks. And see if you like how everything is forming so far. Maybe change it with the lasso tool to bring it back to center, or to change the size of it a little bit, just keep it consistent as you can. And so far, if you have something that resembles this, then you're on the right track. So far we've done the ball in its falling motion, and now we're getting ready for it to bounce back up. And now you can really see what I meant by having more space out between your drawings. You can see that there's so much space between this drawing and this drawing that it looks like it's being pushed down faster by gravity. Now we're on to the 7th frame. And again, we can see the ghost of the last drawing before it, the onion skin, to use as a guide for where we're going to be jumping off from. And we're still going to be using the grid, so this is the line we're going to be following, and we're going to try and stay within these confines. Since the impact was kind of so dramatic, its ascent back up is also going to be full of a lot of kinetic energy to leap back up into the air. The shape is still going to be stretched out like it was on its descent because it's so fast going. I'm going to get the lasso tool and move it up a little bit. So this drawing and the last one aren't overlapping at all, to sell that there's more space between these drawings and that they're going fast. And as it continues to ascend, it's losing a bit more of its energy, so it's losing that stretched out shape, so it's less dramatically stretched now. It's going more back to the circular shape it kind of was. Still not perfectly a circle, but more that than how dramatically stretched out it was previously. And now these two drawings aren't overlapping or touching, but they're getting closer and closer because they're losing momentum and slowing down. So far you should have something like this. And this is just all related to the basic animation principles, timing, spacing, and squash and stretch. I'll put a link somewhere to a more detailed description of the animation principles because they really are the building blocks of all animation. Okay, frame 9. So this is when the ball isn't stretched out at all anymore and is back to its more circular shape, and you can see that this drawing is a lot closer to the one we drew previously, and they are overlapping. And since we want this to loop, the first frame that we drew is kind of the height that we're aiming for the last frame to build up to. So when we play this back, it looks like the ball is just constantly going up and down in a continuous loop. And now onto frame 10. Still pretty close, still keeping that organic round ball shape that we had in the beginning. I'm going to go back to the first frame and copy it. You can do that by seeing the copy button in the top right hand corner and then pasting onto the last one just to get an idea of the height we're trying to build up to here. So copy that, and then you can paste it using the symbol next to it in the top right hand corner as well. And now you can see that this is the distance that we have to make up to. So I'm going to get the lasso tool, put it around the copied and pasted ball from the first frame and just move it down a little bit. And now all these drawings are kind of going to be overlapping because it's slowing down at the peak of its jump. So now we're on frame 12 and we're going to paste the ball we had from the first frame and move it down a little bit again. And you can see the onion skin of the previous frame behind it, and you can see that they're almost completely overlapping, but not quite. And there you have 12 frames. So that's going to play it back really fast because we're on 24 frames a second. So we'd need double the amount of drawings to be able to have a second of more fluid animation. Now I'm going to show you how to put the animation on twos. This just means that the same drawing you drew on frame 1 will be the exact same drawing you're going to have on frame 2. And the drawing you had on frame 2 originally will move up to frame 3. So you're just doubling exactly what you have already drawn. And this will make your original 12 drawings into 24 drawings, so now you have a solid 24 frame a second animation. So you're going to hold down your frame, you're going to click on the little plus kind of symbol with the arrow going right, and this will create a new frame between 1 and 3. So now you have an empty frame to paste the drawing that you have on frame 1. You want to make sure you have frame 1 copied like we did earlier, and then you're going to click this button to paste it. So now you should have the same drawing on 2 frames. And that's called twos. There's also on 3s and 4s, and that just means the same drawing is held for 3 frames or 4 frames. This can just be a handy way to make it so you don't have to actually draw as many things to fill up the amount of drawings you need per second. Depending on what kind of animation you're doing, it will look right or wrong. You know, it'll just be up to you in the situation. So now let's go ahead and copy and paste every other drawing that you've done as well. And we're going to copy frame 3 and paste it onto the next one. So again, what I did there is using the little menu that pops up when you hold down a frame. There's a copy and paste there. So that's 1, 2, same one, 3, 4, same one. So you can just make sure you're doing it correctly by scrubbing back through the timeline and making sure it's the same drawing held twice. You can also use the copy and paste up at the right hand corner of your screen. So again, I just copied it with this symbol, held it down, made a new frame, and then pasted it using this symbol. Here's the impact. So again, copy, make a new frame, and paste. Same thing for 11, copy, hold it down, new frame, and paste. And just continue doing that for all of your drawings. And there you go. Now you have 24 drawings. This should slow down how it plays back now. My last two drawings at the end are a bit jittery. That's just with the positioning of them. I'll go back in now with the lasso tool and change them. Yeah, they're not the same frame. I'll fix that now. So if your animation is looking a bit odd, maybe you have copy and pasted the incorrect frame the same way I have, in which case you can just delete it and copy and paste in the correct one. And there we go, much better. And now you should have something that looks like this. This is super rough, this is all scribbles. Now we can go back in and clean it up a little bit more. What's really cool about this app is it actually has a layer system for each frame you do. So you can go down to where the red arrow is pointing, click into that, and there's some of your layers. Click into that, and now you can see that this is the frame that you've actually been drawing on. You can set down the opacity of that layer just by holding down the right hand side and dragging it up or down. And on your actual canvas, you can see the drawing getting a little bit more faded. This will be handy when we're drawing over it. If you press the plus symbol there, you can add another layer. We're going to be cleaning up this animation on the second layer that we've just made. So it's going to be less sketchy, less like this, and more like an actual cleaned up nice ball. So up here you'll see a little ruler, and that gives you the option to have a line, a circle, or a square. And we're going to use the circle one as a little template on how to do a nice perfect circle. We're also going to change our pen color now, so just go into your color picker, and I'm going to use this kind of blue-gray color, not jet black. So I'm just going to pinch the screen and zoom in with my fingers and change this circle implement to be the kind of size we actually want. So we're going to move this up to where our drawing is. And draw it that size, and then hit the ruler symbol again, and it should get rid of the stencil. You can always go back and use the lasso tool to make it a smaller size or more size than your sketches beneath it. So now you have your perfect circle, and you're going to go to the copy button again and paste it to the next frame. and it's very clever, and we'll paste it onto a second layer the same way you have it in frame 1. Then go to your third frame, and I'm going to paste the same ball again, go to the lasso tool, and then I'm going to move that ball down to where the sketch is below it. Then copy frame 3, paste that onto frame 4, because again it's on 2s and you want the exact same positioning of it. Copy that, paste it onto frame 5, and now you're going to use the lasso tool and the little handles around it to kind of warp the shape into the same kind of stretched out shape you had on your sketch layer. So remember, this stage is just the cleanup stage, so you shouldn't be animating anymore. You should have it moving like how you want it to move from your sketch layers. We started off with doing a more sketchy style to get you more accustomed to drawing in this app instead of just relying on the stencil tools. And because the rough layer is not supposed to be clean, you want to be just focusing on it moving and not it being completely perfect yet. So next frame, another copy and paste from the last one, and now we're moving this one down and giving it a more extreme stretch using the handlebars from the lasso tool. Then copy that and paste it to the next frame, same as always. So onto the next frame, and this time I'm going to go back and find one of the more perfect circles like we had at the beginning to copy and paste that onto the next frame. Then we're going to use the lasso tool to move it down. And I'm going to make it a little less of a perfect circle and squash it a bit down. Then copy that frame and paste it onto the next. And paste it onto frame 11 as well. And then just match it up with your sketch the same as always. So even though this seems like a drastically different shape, it's still the same amount of ball being squashed down. So it's the same density. So say you had something like slime and you had it in a ball shape and then you squashed it down. It's still the same amount of slime in it. So we want to kind of keep the same amount of density consistent throughout this. Then copy that and paste it. Then paste it onto the next frame as well and just turn it and move it up to where your sketch is. Then copy that and paste it onto frame 14. And now I'm going to go back to one of the drawings where it's a little bit more circular and copy that and paste it onto the next frame. I'm not going to quite make this as small as the sketch underneath. I think I lost the correct density when I was sketching through it, and now you can kind of correct it in the cleanup stage by copying and pasting from previous frames. I'm going to go back again and get a more circular looking ball to copy and paste it to keep the consistency like I said. I'm going to copy frame 3 and paste it to frame 17. Move that down with the lasso tool, copy that, and paste it to the next frame. Paste it again to frame 19 and just use the lasso tool again to move it up to the same place as your sketch layer beneath. Yep, copy that, paste it again, and just move it up. copy it, paste it again, and move it on up. And then copy that and paste it to your final frame, frame 24. So now you should have something like this. And now we can go back all the way to frame 1, open up our layers again, and hide our rough layer. And now all we see is the cleaned up circle. And now the last step is coloring it. So now that you have your nice solid line circle, you can go into your bucket tool, click on the pigmented square, and change it to whatever color you like. I'm probably going to stick with a blue color, so you can see it nicely on the ball. And now all you have to do is have the paint bucket tool selected and click onto the center of each circle. And if you accidentally misclick to the surrounding area, you can just press the undo button, same as me. I'm going to turn off the grid and press play. And there you have it. There's the bouncy ball. I know this might not be the most exciting thing, but here's this bouncing pumpkin I made using all the principles you used here on how to make this bouncy ball. It's just with extra kind of detail to it. And all that does is takes a little bit more time and patience. But what you just learned there can morph into something way more complicated and cool, but you have to start with the basics. If you want to make that into a movie, just click into Make a Movie. We're going to make sure to make this into an MP4. And to keep this free, you're going to have to keep the Flipaclip watermark, so keep that turned on, otherwise you'll have to pay $2.99 or something, and it's not worth that. So make sure all the information at the bottom is duration 1 second, total frames 24, and 24 frames per second. And canvas size, again, I'm going to stick with YouTube 1080p, but you can set it to anything. If you want to put it on TikTok or Instagram or anything like that, you can make it that. Then click Make a Movie. I have something named this already, so I'm just going to put a 1 here in front of it so I don't save over anything. Then it should be saved into your gallery, and you can share it on any kind of websites, and you can share it for this competition via a link in the description. That's the end of part 1 at the bouncy ball. This is part 2. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to do a very basic waveform with the ghost. So the same as when we set up the bouncy ball project, press the plus button in the bottom right hand corner. Then in project name, give it your name, underscore, and what the project is, so in this case it's Ghost. Pick whatever background you want, put it at YouTube 1080p, and for this one we're going to keep it at 12 frames per second. If you're not quite sure on the tools we'll be using, you can go back and check out the introduction to Flipaclip in this tutorial. So to start off with your ghost, it's going to be in a more cartoony and simplistic style. It's just going to be a circle and a squiggle. So it's going to be this kind of shape generally, and his little tail will be the waveform that we'll be animating and focusing on. So I'm going to change the color of my pen. I'm going to make it red. On frame 1, I'm going to start off with drawing a circle for a head here and a simple wave shape like this. Now, with a wave, you want to keep in mind and try to visualize that there's an almost infinity loop of little balls like passing along its outside line that are shaping it in and out. I'll give you a visual for this to really get you to know what I'm trying to say here, but if you can kind of visualize something like that, it'll help you along making the wave. So I'll keep the main waveform inside here to show you what's really going on underneath. On frame 2, you want to draw another circle exactly where the head was before, because that's kind of staying stationary and we're just making the waveform. And this time, the ball that we're visualizing has moved down more, which is creating more of a soft arc in this direction. On frame 3, again, you want to put the head in the same spot. So you want a shape that kind of looks similar to this. And again, just keep in mind visualizing the balls constantly moving along each of the edges and morphing it where the ball goes. So again, I'll have a little reference image of what I mean here in the top right corner somewhere. I don't want it to be that drastic. So there you go, you can kind of see it beginning to form. So you can see the line I just drew in the center, forming that infinite waveform that I'm trying to capture here. And onto frame 4, you're gonna have the same head shape in the same spot. And you're gonna have this kind of shape going on. So that means the ball on the underneath side has moved down a little bit further, and the one on top has ended its loop and jutted off, and another one is coming down to complete that infinite loop again. And then another head on there in frame 5, and this time the ball under here is going to be moving this way. It's going to push in a little shape and form another little arc. And if that doesn't really make much sense, just have a vague kind of similar shape to the one I'm doing and it should form okay. So onto frame 6, again just drawing the head, and you can see that the balls moving along it are making another dip in and continuing their circuit along this line. You kind of want to keep the tail with the same kind of line going up and down, so it's not growing bigger or smaller. Now this is going to play it back kind of fast, but don't worry about that yet, we're going to put it on 2s and stuff next. So you can see you get that kind of loop, and this might take a few tries to get kind of right for what you're going for, but anything you do, I'd be extremely impressed if I got back any ghost and waveforms that are even close to looking correct, because I still find them difficult even, but they're really cool once you get them down right. I think I'm gonna go back in and fix this frame up a little bit. He looks a bit fat here in comparison to how he looks in other frames. And we're going to put it on 2s, same as the bouncy ball. So we're going to hold that down, copy it, and paste it to the next frame. And again, putting it on 2s just means that the same drawing is held for 2 frames instead of just 1. So we had this on 12 frames per second, and we drew 6, but then duplicated them, so now there is 12. And now it should play back a little bit more smoother and slower. It seems like his tail grows a bit bigger there, so I'm going to go back in with the lasso tool and fix that. So if you see any inconsistencies like this, you can always go back and use the eraser or use the lasso tool and change the size of things to be more like how you want them to look. And now that I've changed frame 1, I am going to delete frame 2 and copy and paste the new frame 1. And I'm also going to size down frame 3 a little bit as well to also be more the same kind of size that we have all the tails. Then we'll just see how that looks. Yeah, that looks a little bit better to my eye. And now we can get into cleanup. So even if the infinity line of balls going along this don't quite make sense to you, if you have each frame kind of in these shapes, it should be more or less a waveform idea that you're conveying. And now for cleanup, we're going to make a second layer on frame 1. And we're going to get our ruler tool like we did with the bouncy ball. We're going to change the color of our pen tool. I'm going to make mine a kind of navy color again. Then get your circle and try line it up with your sketch underneath. And then draw the head. And now I'm going to make this circle tool a little bit smaller to make an O shape for a mouth and 2 eyes. And I'm just going to copy and paste the first eye I did to the second one. And I'm also going to give him some type of arm, like flailing behind him as he's trying to ghost around and be spooky. Sorry, I'm being kind of a perfectionist over these arms. They're so jittery looking. And make sure that your lines like completely overlap. So like if you're doing, say, a circle like this, instead of a circle that doesn't have the end lines overlapping, it'll make it so that later on when you're just trying to fill it in with the bucket tool, that it will paint everything outside of it as well, instead of just an enclosed area. One arm's fine. Then you just want to copy that head and arm you have and paste it onto every single frame that you have, because that's going to be stationary. And you can give him any kind of expression you want and put his arms any way you want. This is just an example of what you can do. I'm sure you can come up with something way more creative than I can. Okay, now we're going to go in and make another layer this time, and we're going to move it down below the head layer that we just made. And I'll show you why when we're coloring it all in later. So for this, we're going to follow the line underneath as best you can, and you can fill in here all you like. I know it will look like you're drawing over the face, but that layer is underneath it, so it's not affected. Again, we're trying to be careful and keep the lines closed on the tail and also closed underneath the head. Then copy that from frame 1 and paste it onto frame 2. Again, we're working on 2s, so we just want to keep those the same. I'm going to turn off onion skins so we can just see the line work we did underneath. And again, copy that and paste it to the next frame. So you can see now that cleanup is taking me a lot longer than the first rough pass took me. So if you really don't have the patience for this, I won't mind seeing rough passes as well. I think those are really neat. But if you want to go above and beyond and clean it up, I think that would be really cool as well. But anything you guys make, I'm sure it will look great, even if it's just sketchy. I would still love to see it. So I'm going to get the eraser and I'm going to try and get rid of the overlapping lines at the end of the tail just to make things look neater. And remember, close that line right here, close that. So overlap your lines, and if they are messy underneath the head, that's fine, it'll be covered later, but maybe do clean up if your tails are overlapping like that. And play, and it looks a bit mad with all our rough lines underneath now. So go back into your layers and turn off your rough layer. And it still kind of looks mad with all these lines overlapping on his face and everything, but now we'll go in and color. And you can make his head and arm move if you want. For simplicity's sake, I'm not going to do that. We're just going to focus on the tail. And now we're going to go back onto the head layer and we're going to color in that first. So we're going to use the bucket tool and you're going to pick whatever color you want. I'm going to use the dropper tool and pick the color that I already used for the outline color. And then I'm going to use that to fill in his mouth and eyes on each frame. Then go back and change your color to whatever you want his head to be colored. I'm going to go back in and make him a light blue color. And now you can see, because we have this layer on top of the other one, that the lines underneath from the tail aren't shown anymore. And now we want to go into the other layer where his tail is, and hopefully you've made this job a lot easier for yourself and all your lines are sealed. You know what, I might do it even a slight darker blue for the tail so it stands out. And again, you can make your ghost whatever color you like. And now play that back and see how it looks. Yeah, he's not perfect, but this is the general idea of a very, very basic waveform. If you have anything that looks remotely like this, that's going to be really, really cool and impressive. Again, I should have some visual references up and links to things in the description down below on what I mean by a ball moving along a line and just pushing that up and creating arcs with it. So hopefully you have some basic understanding of a waveform now. And to export that, you want to do the same as before. Just go into your settings up here in the right hand corner, press make a movie. Make sure your movie name is named what you like it to be. Make sure it's on YouTube 1080p in MP4 and 12 frames per second, and then click on make a movie. And then this will just save to your gallery to be uploaded and shared wherever you want. Welcome to part 3 and how to make a flying bat. So you want to start off with making your project the same as before and click on the plus button in the bottom right hand corner. Under project name, put in the title of your project. I'm going to name mine my full name, underscore, and then what this project is. I'm going to make this YouTube 1080p. And I'm going to make this 24 frames per second. And then just choose any background you like and click create your project. And here we go. Now just choose your pen tool and change it to red. So to start off drawing your bat, you want to draw a little circle near the bottom of your canvas. Our bat isn't going to be realistic, it's going to be really, really cartoony and simple to draw. So on frame 1, you want to draw your circle and then the frame of the bat's wing coming out from it. They're going to be completely outstretched upwards. So something like this. In the second frame, you want to move up the ball part, which is the main part of the bat's body. And you want to move him up because the momentum of his wings catching air is moving him upwards. And we're going to move those wing shapes slightly down to give the illusion that he is flying. And you can just work really loosely and roughly. This is just our first pass going through it. We're going to put in more detail and be a bit more precious with it later on when we're doing cleanup. So next frame, you want the head to be up even more and his wings to almost be like in a straight line out from him. In this kind of shape. And then when you just scrub through the timeline a little bit, you can see that it's already like he's starting to fly. And again, try to take your time to make the ball shape a consistent size throughout it, but we'll be cleaning it up later, so you don't have to worry too much about that. The next one is frame 4, and the ball shape that is his head and where his face will be is going to be way up. Probably the furthest is going to be up in this whole animation. And his wings are going to be more below him like this. And when you play that back, you can see, ooh, the ball part got a lot smaller. I'm just gonna go in and fix that now. And there you go. Frame 5. And this is when our bat is going to be kind of losing the momentum. So he's gone up, up, up the whole way with a gust from under his wings. And then he's going to be kind of free falling a little bit. So our little bat is going to be kind of tucking in his wings. And he's going to be folding in that spine on his wing like this. So until we have the more extreme tuck in of his wings, he's going to look like a little spider almost. And now we're going to be moving his head position much lower because he's in that free fall kind of state. We're going to go back to frame 5 and use the lasso tool to bring him down a little bit again as well. Yeah, and then on frame 6, he's going to be lower than that one again because his wings are all tucked up under and there's no more gust keeping him up. Now, since this is only 6 frames, it's going to play back super fast, but you're kind of going to see the motion to start forming here. Now for adding more details, like the ears, I'm going to change to a different color. And I'm gonna make another layer to start drawing on. So I'm gonna have really simple pointed little ears, almost like a little cat, but you know, bigger in comparison to their head size. And I'm also gonna put detail on the wing, so it looks like the skin on the bat's wing is catching the gust of wind underneath it and it's fanning out at the top. So the wing's gonna look full at this side and at this side. And then the skin underneath is going to look a bit stretched because it's all furled out. And I know this might all appear very messy, but again, this is just the rough pass and our construction lines, so it's just going to be a guide later on for our cleanup. And now we're going to do his ears again. So since he's gonna up, his ear is gonna be squished down in this direction because they're pushing up against air. So our bat is fighting gravity going up and gravity is pushing his ears back down. So you can draw his ears beginning to be pushed down, but not quite yet, not too extreme. He's only on the 2nd frame yet. And again, you want to put in the lines for his wings to look like they're being full of air. If all these construction lines look a bit too complicated and messy for you, you can always go in and turn off your onion skin. Then on frame 3, you want his ears to be flattened down even more than the last one, because again, they're fighting gravity going upwards and being pushed down by it. And then you want to do this kind of wing shape at the top and more underneath. And on frame 4, here will probably be the most the ears are pushed down. And we still have that skin on top of the wing being filled up with air, and even more skin underneath being shown in this position. And now on frame 5, his ears are gonna be settling down a little bit more. They're not fighting gravity going up as much because he's in the free fall, tucking his wings under starting pose. And then here's the kind of angular shape you want to be coming out of the wings with. And then on frame 6, his ears are going to be kind of neutral again here. And then you want him to be drawn in this kind of shape. And it's going to play back very, very fast again. But now we can go back and start putting in on 2s. So like we've done before, go back to your first frame, press on it, copy it, and paste it. And because we have this in 2 layers, you're going to want to go back and copy and paste the other layer as you go. So I'm just going to do 1 layer at a time. And again, I'm using the copy and paste located up at the top right of the page. And if you copy and paste an incorrect layer like I have here, you can just go back, delete it, and copy the correct one and paste it in. And now you can go back and copy in your second layer anywhere where it needs to go. And then just press the play button to see how it looks. Okay. We're going to try and sell the momentum on his wings by going back and doing a thing called smear frames and speed lines, so he can really look like he's swooping down. Because this is the free version and you can only have up to 3 layers, I'm going to continue working on the same layer I have been, just because it's still a rough pass, and we want to keep our final layer for the cleanup. I'm gonna put the onion skin back on so it can help me animate. So I'm gonna have some action lines come down on frame 5, which are just like little lines and dashes between the previous frame and your new one, so like this. And make sure to copy everything you do and paste it onto the other frame as you go, because we're still working on 2s. For this frame, I'm gonna kind of smear out the line that we've already created coming out from the wing itself. So like these little triangle shapes, so it can convey that the wing is going so fast it's being warped before your very eyes. And you can see if it works or not later when you play it back, and if it doesn't, you can change it up. I think I'm gonna go back and change the direction of those lines, so make the triangles go in a kind of more inward swoop than I had them. Then copy that, put it on your second frame as well, then play back. So now we're gonna go back and do cleanup. It's going to be the same as before. We're going to make a new layer and start lining in on that layer. And since we did our sketch layers in red and blue, we can differentiate them from our new clean layer. I'm going to do it in a dark purple. You can pick whatever color you like. And you can make this the most perfectly lined little bat you want, or you can keep it rough and sketchy. I don't really mind. You can go into the ruler tool and then start off by filling in your circle shape with the perfect circle that it has here. And on this stage you want to draw a little face, and then you can just copy and paste this onto each frame after this and draw in the ears and details on top as we go. So you want to click on the lasso tool, encompass the head you've drawn, and then move it up to match your sketch underneath. And then copying, pasting him again, and then moving him up. And then play it back, and you can see his little face is always consistent on each frame. And now we're going to go back to frame 1 and start filling in the line where his ears are. Copy and paste for 2s as you go. Make sure when you're drawing your lines that they're completely sealed and not open like that. This will be helpful when you're coloring it later. And if this is too much going on here in the background, you can turn off your onion skin here. And there you go, big floppy ears. And now we'll go back and get on to doing the wings. So we're going to work on the same layer again that we have the head, because we can't do a fourth layer. Yeah, you'll have to pay like €2 for that, and we don't need it. So I'm going to start off with following the red line mostly, since it's the main spine to the wing and it's the overarching structure. And then go in and do the blue line. And remember, we want to keep the ears in front, so even though your red line underneath goes through them, don't continue on the line, just stop at the ear. And just take your time as you're going, undo and redraw as many times as you have the patience for, and then copy and paste onto your second frame, because again, it's on 2s. Yeah, I think I'm gonna turn off the onion skins because that is too much going on now. Now follow the red line first. And then follow the blue line. And copy and paste. And here is where we have those little action lines. And again, you just want to draw over your red line first and then your blue one. And again, just take your time with it, but don't be too worried if it isn't perfect lines and everything. I think he's allowed to be a little bit more sketchy. He's kind of scrappy little bat. And now you want to follow just the blue spiky line that you drew for the smear frame instead of the line on the inside as well. And again, these action lines and these smear frames are just to sell the idea of motion and speed. And copy that and paste it. And same as before, just line in the red line first, then the blue line, then copy and paste it for 2s. And then your last frame, where he's all tucked in. and then copy and paste it, and then play it back. And now you can go back and turn off your rough layers underneath. And you can go in with your eraser tool to get rid of any of those lines, kind of like here, where they're overlapping, if you want, to make it really, really neat. So if you really want to make it super, super neat, you can go in and do this, but if you're not bothered, honestly, don't worry about it. And so you keep your twos the same, you can just delete the second one that you haven't erased the scraggly lines on, and then copy and paste the new one you have done. So you can go in and you can do that with any frame you see the lines overlapping or still a bit messy. I'm not going to go in and do that. That's a lot of work, and I'm just doing this for the sake of the tutorial. So here we go. So yeah, there's the frame with your smear frames on it, where it's so warped by speed that it's almost a different shape. I'm just going to add in some more action lines to see how they look. And now go in and color it. Now you can go in and get your bucket tool and pick whatever color you want. I'm gonna pick a kind of light purple color to go with the dark purple outline. And then just start coloring by clicking on where you want the color to be. And then just continue on and do that for every frame. Then play it back, see how it looks, and there you go. You got a little spooky bat for Halloween. And he looks like he's flying, and he has little smear frames, which is a thing that cartoons and stuff on TV use all the time. And then you just want to export your animation as usual. So click here, then make a movie. Make sure it's called what you want it to be called, YouTube 1080p, MP4, 24 frames per second, and then make movie, and it should be saved to your gallery. And you can share it to any social media sites or Discord or anything that's on your phone already. Thanks to everyone so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed these tutorials and they were a good kind of introduction to animation, and I hope you take part in the competition and win yourself a drawing tablet. Thanks again. Happy Halloween!